both classes actually. Um, but just just taking some time just to really just kind of reflect on everything. But no, it was powerful. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the Torah, it does that. It just hits you and you just keep going with it. But I was gonna
Well,
say, I was good to see you guys. The thing is that it's so important to have those like pre conversations where the husband and the wife, and then they give over to the kids like certain halakot, different laws of halakha going into the holidays. I mean, maybe some kids are not going to be into it, whatever, but having that tradition. So I want to kind of like go over some of the halakot for tonight, and to kind of like give a context, so we could kind of hold on, make sure we're on the right thing. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Mm, okay. It's crazy. There's so many laws for Hanukkah. It's weird. Okay.
Rabbi Mordecai,
Yeah, go ahead.
I tell you what, we this past Shabbat, we had a time frame where we actually just sat and we went around the table early, and just actually just talk to the children and ask them a question. Say, hey, listen, can you recall of a miracle that Hashem has done in your life?
Yeah.
And, and surprisingly, each child begin to express, what Hashem has done in their life. And sometimes they kind of pause and they had to kind of think about it. But we had multiple children that when they got to testifying about what Hashem had done, I mean, they started weeping and crying, and I mean,
Wow.
it was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
To say thanks, Rabbi Mordecai.
Yeah, yeah. And so while the children were crying, and I mean, these are tears of joy.
Yeah.
One of our sons, he said, "Hey, thank Rabbi Mordecai."
Wow, that's amazing.
It was beautiful.
It's beautiful. No, we got to dig in. And the thing about it, the more we talk about it, it's like sometimes we have an emphasis on something during the holiday, but but it's really there to build a new structure in a lot of ways. There's a lot of things that we pick up during the holidays and focuses. We're not really supposed to stop those things. You know what I mean? Like we're supposed to really continue on and incorporate that. So, this guy that's coming back from this meeting yesterday, I was coming from Tel Aviv, which is like an hour away on this train, whatever. And so this guy, I just randomly sat down, and the guy sitting across from me is a guy that I knew. And and so he starts telling me a story about like how his dad just died like a few weeks ago, and this, and like we're in a train. He's like crying, this, blah, blah. So I'm talking to him, and I'm just like, he's talking about his dad and different things. And I said to him, I said, hey, it has to come to like there's an idea during Pesach that we say Dayenu, which is like basically if God would have only like say if God only took us to Mount Sinai, nothing else, Dayenu, that would have been enough, right? Or if God would have just gave us, if God just released us from slavery from Egypt, Dainu, that would have been enough. Or like every step of our journey is to look at it and to be like, wow, like that would have been enough. If this is all I had, this would have been enough. But he gave me even more, right? And so it's like that approach to life in general that everything is Dainu. Every day is Dainu. Every day is enough. Look what Hashem has given me so far. Look what He's given me up until this moment. Like this cup of water I'm drinking, Dainu. And so the point is just saying that, when the kids are talking about their stories and these types of things, it creates this process of conceptualization of their life. And I mean, not just the kids, anybody, the conceptualization of their life and how imminent God's presence is in our lives and how much He's steering us and guiding us. And the closer we cling to the Creator, the stronger that that sense of direction, we're going to have. So, anyways, but I just think so. It's a very powerful thing to reflect and to see what God has done for us, and I think maybe even the next level is to say like, if God only gave you that, would your life been complete? Or if there, what is it in your life that if you didn't have anything else past just this, what would it be? Like you could say like, you meeting your mom, right? Like, like I'm saying, you guys, like if you just met your wife, maybe that would have been enough, but he blessed you with all these children. Maybe if you just had all these children, that would have been enough, but he raised them to be righteous, It's just that idea. Anyways, so let's keep going. So it says, Eina meti anina bi me Hanukkah. So we're going to go over the laws of Hanukkah just to be aware of it. We're just going to kind of like go through it. Any questions, feel free to jump in. All right. So it says fasting is not permitted on Hanukkah. However, on the day before Hanukkah and on the day after Hanukkah, it is permitted to utilize and fast. All right. So there's no fasting on Hanukkah. Like there's no like connection in that way. What is this? Bechanucha, mutar, be'asitan, malacha. So he says you are permitted to work on Hanukkah, but women follow the custom not to do any work during the time of the candle during the time of the Hanukkah lights are burning, and you should not cause them to treat this matter lightly. So they're saying it's a very high connection with women in this candle lighting thing. So women, the custom is that women should not work, like not do really any, miscellaneous labor during that time as much as they can if they have kids. I know it's not so easy, but they should be able to do that and they should take it very serious. He said the reason is that women are more stringent about this than men is that the cruelty of the evil decree was directed mainly at Jewish women. Interesting. The Greeks decreed that the virgin girls before their wedding must first cohabitate with the general. Another reason for this is that the miracle came about through a woman. The daughter of Yochanan, the Kohen Gadol, was a very beautiful girl, and the ruthless king wanted her to lie with him. And she told him that she would fulfill his request, and she served him cheese dishes so that he would be thirsty and drink wine, and then became intoxicated and fell asleep. And that is precisely what happened. And then she cut off his head and then brought it to Jerusalem. This is intense stuff. So he says, when the general saw that the king was dead, he in his army fled. Therefore, some people have accustomed to eat dairy dishes on Hanukkah to commemorate the miracle achieved by the means of the dairy product. So, hey, you know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna say? You know what I mean? Like, so women had a special connection. Women were definitely, you know, very much a part of this experience on multiple levels. And so, for that reason, she thinks about the woman thinks about all of her sisters from the past that have fallen subject to the enemy. And it's not just, during the times of the Maccabees, but also like in our neighborhoods, right? There's like all types of, devices and mechanisms that have been put in our communities that have wiped out a lot of our women. And there's been a lot of great things happen from our women, even though these things have been put against us. So it's a connection to the power of women in many ways, and the power of endurance. Kol hashminim kesarim laner Hanukkah. So he says all kinds of oils are valid for Hanukkah lights. Nevertheless, the mitzvah done to perfection is to use olive oil. That's what I personally use. Similar to the miracle in the base of Mikdash, because they had olive oil there, they found it, which was achieved with olive oil. If this cannot be attained, you should select other kinds of oil that give clear, bright flame or wax or a wax candle. For they also produce clear light. So if a person doesn't have olive oil with a stem, Like I have, they still have other things. They have you can use wax candles, right? So he says, and for they also produce clear light. He says you should not use two candles braided together. So I don't know if you ever seen those those geez,
Havdalah.
Havdalah candles, yeah. So the Havdalah candles, he said you shouldn't use those. So he says you shouldn't use the two candles braided together. For that, you should light a torch, but each candle should burn by itself, and you should not make wax. You should not make the candles from wax that comes from the house of idol worship, for that they are, for that is repulsive. They all wicks are valid for candlelight. The mitzvah is done to perfection is to use cotton. It is not necessary to take the wicks every night, but you may light the old wick unless they are used up. Okay, so that's interesting. So if you have the wax candles and they didn't burn all the way through, it sounds like over here you can use it again. Im madlik beiner shel chares chares chares. Okay, so he says if the lamp if the light if you light a menorah made of earthware after you light it one after you light it one night it deteriorates and you should not light from it again in the following night because it's repulsive. So I guess it's like these temporary like Hanukkahs that I guess you could use it. It says therefore one should possess a beautiful menorah made of metal if you can afford it, and you should buy a silver menorah in order to adorn the mitzvah. So here in Israel, I haven't been in America so long, but a long time. But I'll say one second. What am I doing? I'll say here, everybody. I have a really nice menorah that I was really proud of what I bought. But the menorah thing is a big thing, I mean, I have a student that is lighting, for his family, and they just have the regular candlesticks and that type of thing. And he says next year I really want to go and really like invest and really get a really nice big menorah. So everything at its own on speed but it's something about beautifying the mitzvah, about saying that not only am I going to perform the precepts, I'm going to make it nice, I'm going to make it glamorous. It's like, when you think about like why did Hashem make luxury? Why the concept of luxury? Obviously, the other nations are not going to use luxury correctly until we do, right? But the real purpose of luxury is extending the mitzvah, right? A luxurious dinner is really the only luxurious dinner is really Shabbat or a Yom Tov, right? Or a Suda mitzvah, right? Those are the luxury meals, right? And beautifying it and having nice cups and cutlery and the table and seats and all these amazing things is there to bring a decadence to it. So he says, Meini, so it says, Minhag Peshut, Bimadina Tenu Kima Hadirim. 8. Excuse me. Yeah, it's like this little bug around. Okay. So, oh, wait 1 second. Okay, it's good. We're making it. All right. Okay. There's a widespread custom in our region to follow the practice of the most scrupulous observance, whereby each member of the family candles one light on the first night, 2 nights on the second night, and it keeps adding into the 8th night. The candles, he said, he kindles 8 lights. You should be careful that each person places his menorah in a separate place so that you could tell easily how many lights are lit, right? The menorah should not be lit in a place where candles are lit all year, so in order to manifest it clearly. That's for Hanukkah. Okay, You guys don't have to do it. Other people do it. I don't have kids, but there is some people who everybody in the family has their own menorah. You know how kids want their own thing sometimes. So it's like that type of a vibe. But it's just showing that there's a lot you could do. It's not like you stuck or one person lights. No, everyone can have their own Hanukkah if they want. So it says mitzvah ner Hanukkah. Le hadlik be petach hasamuk. So he says, and it is a mitzvah to light the menorah in the doorway that opens to the street, public domain, in order to publicize the miracle, in that it was done in the matter in the days of. Sorry about that. People always call me at these times. Anyways, so okay, so he says the mitzvah to light the candle, to light the menorah in the doorway that opens to the street. So people do it here in Israel. It's a big thing. They do it in order to publicize the miracle, and it is done in a manner in the days of the Mishnah and the Talmud. Now, since we live amongst non-Jews, we light menorah in the house. And if you have a window facing the street, you should light it there. If not, you should light it near the door. It is a mitzvah to place the menorah within a tefach of the left side of the door, so that the mezuzah will be on the right and the Hanukkah will be on the left. And in doing so, you find yourself surrounded by mitzvot. It is preferable to place the menorah within the open place of the door. Okay. So right now I'm like, I'm moving like a nice, apartment type of a thing, right? And so I don't really have it. Now I could go downstairs and put it in front of the building that I'm at. Some people do that. A lot of people who have apartments here in Jerusalem, they put their Hanukkah out in their Hanukkah and they put it inside of this glass type of a thing. but I'm not doing that. And the window that I have is overlooking, but it's not overlooking the street. It has a great view, but I don't think anybody's gonna be able to see the thing. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. Now the question is a tefach. How big is a tefach? So it says so these are okay. So now since we live in the menorah, okay. So okay, he said okay. So it is a mitzvah to place the menorah within the tefach of the left side of the door. So the mezuzah will be on the right side, and the Hanukkah lights will be on the left. And in doing so, you find yourself surrounded by mitzvahs. It is possible to place the menorah within the open, safe door to the house. Mitzvah lehin tam ma'ala. So just and the mitzvah requires that the menorah be placed higher than 3 tefakim. So hold on, I just want to get the right definition of tefakim just for 1 second. I have this book here with glossary in it. I know it'd be quicker if I just looked it up on Google. Just thought I have a Shulchan Aruch in front of me, and so I'm trying to see if I thought there was a glossary in here. Anyway, I'm gonna look it up really quick. I just want to make sure. I think it's like I think if you have your hand balled up, I think from your fist to your elbow could be a tefach. I'm not sure. I just want to make sure. 1 second. Any thoughts? Any ideas? Any questions?
Okay. No, we're fine.
Okay, hold on. I said tefach. I should look up how you spell it. TF. You see it on there, tefach?
It's TEFACH. I can't see. I can't say. I think I remember.
It's too small, huh? All right, hold on 1 second.
Oh.
T-E-F, Akim. T-E-F, all right, hold on. Okay, so a tefach is a unit of length approximately equal to 8 centimeters or 3.2 inches. So like 3 inches is a tefach. So it's like the size. I think it's like you can say the size of your, like if you your fist maybe. So like you can say like this is like a tefach, yeah.
You
Like
say how many inches? Three by
three
3 inches.
inches, 3.2.
So, so if you was to take like your finger,
Yeah,
your middle finger here, I guess that's, and so this is about from the tip down to that first line is about an inch, and then that's 2 inches, three, and then probably about a half. So probably almost to the top part of your hand, the
yeah.
from top finger to about there. That would be
Okay.
about 3.5 inches there.
Okay. Can you explain what exactly what are we gonna do with
Th-
that?
This
Okay.
is this is from this is how far the Hanukkah needs to be from the floor.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. So it says the mitzvah is required that the mitzvah requires that the menorah be higher than 3 tefakim
okay.
Okay.
above the floor
Uh-huh.
and lower than 10 tefakim. So
Oh,
so it should be lower than 10 and higher than 3.
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
And he says, but if you place it higher than 10 tefakim, you still have fulfilled the mitzvah. However, if you place it higher than 20 amos, you have not fulfilled the obligation because when you place it higher than 20 amos, it is out of the range of vision, right?
Hmm.
So you got to see it. So if you live on an upper floor, you may place the menorah in the window, even though it is higher than 10 tefakim from the ground. So you're saying it's not like from the ground, like on the street to where, because like you live on the eighth floor, what does that mean, right? So he's speaking about the ground in the apartment or wherever you live, the house. So he says, if you live on the upper floor, you may place the menorah in the window, even though it's higher than tefakim from the ground. But if the window is higher than 20 amos from the ground of the public domain, where it's out of the range of vision of people walking in the street, then it is preferable to place the lights near the door. Hanoro dehivu beshura achat achat. So he says, and the light should be placed on an even row. One one should not be higher than the other, right? You see, like the way that the structure of the Hanukkah is, like, they're pretty much all have the same sign. He said space should be left between the lights so that the flames would not merge and look like a torch. Wax candles should be separate so they would not become heated from the others and cause the wax to melt and to become spoiled. If you fill a dish with oil and put a wicks around it, and you place a per, 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 perforated cover on it, each wick counts as a secular light. But if you don't place a cover on it, it does not count. It does not count. It does not count even. It does not even count as one light because it resembles a torch. A lamp, a lamp that has 2 or 3 branches should not be kindled by 2 people, even on the first night, because there's no way to tell how many candles were lit for that night. These are not issues that we have, because you're not. I mean, I saw your Hanukkah, you know what I mean, Hanukkah, so it's like it's not an issue, but they're just going into different variables because some people have different traditions and they have to have it. So the Zaman had it says Zaman de la Khatan, sorry, de la Khatan miyad base Bechochavim. So he talking about candle lighting. So he says the time of the light of the menorah is immediately after the stars appear. So right after the star, right after the at the same time you would at the same time you would be taking in Shabbat, like that around that same time frame, you would also be you should also be lighting your candles, right? Around that same time. He says after the stars appear, you should not delay. It's forbidden to do anything before lighting the menorah, even to study Torah. So he says once the stars go down, you have to light the menorah. And he says except for if you have not prayed Maariv, you should first pray and then light. So it's saying you should pray the nighttime prayer before lighting. Before the lighting menorah, you should gather the entire family in order to proclaim the event publicly. You should pour enough oil to burn at least in half an hour. If inadvertently you did not light them immediately, you may light them and say the brachot as long as the members of your house are still awake. However, after the family is asleep, it is no longer considered a public event, and you should light them without saying the bracha. So the blessing in it being like at the right time and everyone's aware of it, it's connected to that. So the bracha is really sanctifying not just the lights, but the actual declaration of this public event, right? And so he's saying that if you will not have time, if you will not have time to light the menorah at night, you may do before that time and light the menorah from plag mincha, which is the whole thing. We'll get into that, which is 1/4 an hour before the stars come out. These are time variable hours measured according to the day lengths. See chapter 69 too. And the season for Hanukkah, when the days are short and the days are only 10 hours, is measured by clock. So then plag mincha is half an is an hour, is 1 hour and 1.5 minutes before the stars appear. You may kindle the menorah then, provided that you pour enough oil to burn a half an hour after the stars are visible. If the lights are not burned if the lights do not burn that long, you have not fulfilled the mitzvah. So he's saying you can do it a little bit earlier than when the sun sets, like normal, like say if you did it like when we do candle lighting before Shabbat, like say you did it at that time, it'd be around that same time frame. He said you could do that, but as long as the candles burn for at least a half an hour after the stars go down. Sidur hadlakatan kefi mina hagenu. So he says, according to the custom, the order of lighting the menorah follows. On the first night, you kindle on the first night you first light. Okay, on the first night you kindle the light facing your right hand. Okay, and he says on the second night you add one on your left. The left of the previous night light. So you start. So you're saying you start from the right and you start building towards the left. So like I did my first light, I lit one, right? And then the next night after that, I lit another one, right? But I lift one all the way to the furthest left side, and next to it, I light another one on his left side, and it keeps going all the way. So sorry, on the right side. Sorry, please forgive me. So on your right side, the furthest right part of the menorah the Hanukkah you could light, that's where you start. And then the second night you do on the left, but next to it. See, and you do and the same thing by the third night. It's on the left, but it's on the left of that last one that's actually now on the right. If that makes sense. Okay, so it says similarly to all right, similar. Okay, so left of the previous night. Similarly,
Rabbi,
yeah.
Can you go over that one more time? We just want to make sure we're clear on that as far as
Yeah. Hold on. So let's talk it out. Yeah, it's very important, right? So okay, so you have your menorah, right? Hold on, let me see if I can get mine. Hope you'll be able to see it. Okay, you see mine? Okay. So on the first night, hold on, I got my phone. Okay, so this is the left side. So this is the right side, right? So on this first night, on my right side, the one that is blue. You see that? The one that's blue. That's the first one I'm going to start with, and then the next one next to it, which I guess looks kind of yellowish in this thing, I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna go all the way over until I get to the end. Okay, so this thing up here, you see this top one up here? So we put a light there, but that's it's not necessarily connected to the mitzvah itself. It's there so we don't gain benefit from the light. Like we're not using the light of Hanukkah to read a book or anything like that, right? So we have that extra light. You see that one on the top? That's there just to make sure that you don't go over the mistake of using that light for something other than just its divine holiness. So that's there. It's called the shemesh, right? So like that's for that. But yeah, so each night we start on that, and you just work your way all the way to the far left side, one by one, type of thing. Does that make sense? Got it. Okay, cool. All right, let's keep going. Stuff's important though, yeah? Got to go over this halakha for every holiday. You got to go through it meticulously like this. Okay? All right. So let's keep going. Okay. So it says, he says one to the left. He says, the light that is added is always kindled first, that you may continue in light. The light that is added is always kindled first, and you should continue lighting towards the right. Okay. So it says be. So it says be leil rishon mevarech ha madlik kodim. So he says like this: on the first night, you recite three brachas before lighting the menorah. Okay, it says before lighting the menorah. He said lead hadlik, ner Hanukkah. And then he says, then the second one. You have your Siddur with you, your prayer book. If you have your prayer book, maybe you
Yeah,
could bring it out and we could just look at it inside.
yeah. Let me grab it real quick here.
Yeah.
Leave it at, you just leave it.
Can I put it back on the shelf?
They wanted to
Oh, here it is.
make it.
No problem.
Okay. All right, I got it.
Littles, hey, can you sit down, please? Sit down. You can listen. Drink your tea.
Right, you got it. Okay. So okay. So let me bring mine up. Hold on a second. Yeah. Okay. So you got Nusak after kick, right? All right. So on the first night, okay, we say it's three blessings we say on the first night, right? The first blessing is Baruch atah Hashem Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'vitzvotav b'vitzvianu lehadlik ner Hanukkah. That's the first one. The second one is Baruch atah Hashem Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa Nisan. We're blessing the miracle. Avotenu be yamim hahem bezman hazeh. So that one is on the miracle of the day. So one is blessing the light of Hanukkah. The second one is connecting to that power of that light of that miracle, the miracles that went down. And this last blessing, Baruch atah Hashem Eloheinu melech haolam Shekiano vehikimano vehiano vegiano lesman hazeh. So that one is the blessing of the. You only do that on the first night. You only say that blessing on the first night, and that's it. The Shekiano is like you basically saying it's a new beginning, it's a new era, it's a new connection, and you're acknowledging that. So one, you're acknowledging the first one. You're acknowledging the holiness of Hanukkah, this 25th of Kislev. The second blessing is acknowledging the power of the miracles that have happened on in our own personal life. We're blessing those miracles along with all the miracles that have happened throughout the histories, but specifically the one that happened during this time. And then the last one is Shekianu, which is basically commemorating like a new era, like a newness, a new reality. But you only do that on the first night. But the other two blessings, you do all the other nights.
And it's done in that order, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
So on the preceding nights,
You just do the first two.
just the first two. Okay.
No Shekianu.
Okay.
Okay. All right. But he should let someone know. Okay. Okay. So let's keep going. So it says Kayama Lan. So he says it is a halakhic rule that the act of lighting the menorah creates the mitzvah, which means that the lighting is the essence of the mitzvah. When you light the menorah, the light must be in their the lights must be in a proper place and must have a proper amount of oil according if you lit them when they were lower than three tafakim off the ground than or higher than 20 amos after they were already burning, you place them in their proper place. They're not valid. Okay, so wait, let's go over this really quick. Okay. Okay, so the lighting, so the halakhic rule is the act of lighting the menorah creates the mitzvah, which means that the kindling is the essence of the mitzvah. So the lighting itself that's the connection, that power that's coming down, the spiritual technology that we're using to connect, right? As a technology is the lighting itself, right? So your person has to have a certain amount. And he says, but accordingly, if you light them when they are lower than three tefakim. So say you light the candles and they're lower than three tefakim, or you light them and they're higher than 20 amos, right? And he says, and after they were lit already, burning them, you place them in a proper place. So they're creating a scenario. So say you have your candles and say you have a kid, right? And this kid takes his Hanukkah and he puts it on the ground and he just lights it. And then he goes and he puts it in the window, right? This would count as not counting, right? So he says the place where it's lit is the most important. The place itself, where it's lit, is the most important. And he says, and after they're already burning, you place them there in their proper place. They're not valid. Similarly, if you light them and they did not have the required amount of oil, and then afterwards you add oil, it is also not valid. Similarly, if you set the menorah in a place where the wind is blowing and the lights are bound to be extinguished, you have not fulfilled it. So if you put it in a place where it's obvious something's going to go, like so water is going to drip on it, or anything, right? And so he says, afterwards you add oil, and it is no avail. Similarly, if you set the menorah in a place where the wind is blowing and the lights are going to extinguish, it's not a mitzvah. So the placement, where you place it, and the sensitivity to where you place it, the level you place it, this is part of the lighting. So it's not just the flickering of the light itself, but rather it's the idea of the placement, that it could be visible, it could be seen, that it's above 3 tefakim, and lower than 20 amos, right? All these things, right? All these things, the placement, the sensitivity is important. Okay, so it says, okay, so he says like this. He says the lights are bound to extinguish. You have not. He says the lights are bound to. You have not fulfilled the mitzvah. You must light. You must light them again, but you should not say a bracha. So if your lights go out before 30 minutes, just randomly say someone opens a door or something, and it's just a big breeze. He says you can light them again, but don't say another blessing. The blessing is just one time. He says, but if you put them in a proper place and they are extinguished by accident, you have fulfilled your mitzvah. Nevertheless, it is customary to light them again, and it is custom to restrict and not rekindle and extinguish lights other than other with another Hanukkah light. You should light it with a shemesh or some type of other a light, right? So I'm using a regular candle. I'm sure you guys have a bunch of candles in the house. So, one second. So the way I'm doing it is like this. So here I have this candle. So I light this with a lighter. This candle, this regular candle, I light it with a lighter, and then I light the Hanukkah, and then I light the Hanukkah lights. But obviously it's only one tonight, right? So I light this with this. I don't light it with a lighter. You understand? I use a candle, the shemesh. Yeah, I use this to light it with. This is just a regular candle. You can use whatever candle. I just bought this one today, but it's it's a regular candle. So if you have a regular candle, you light you light that one with the you light that one with you light that one with a light, and then you light your candles subsequent with that, but you don't light it directly with the lighter on that. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, totally. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, so we don't use other Hanukkah candles to light other candles if they go out. Kol zaman mitzvatan hayinu chasi sha'a. So he says during the time they're burning in fulfilling of the mitzvah, that is a half an hour. It is forbidden to benefit from the lights. That it is a custom, therefore, to place the shemesh near so that you can use the light for your personal benefit. You will be using the light of the shemesh. You must place the shemesh a little higher than the other lights so you can recognize that it's not required as part of the mitzvah of lighting. So we just talked about that. So it says, Madlikin nerot bevet ha-kenise mashum parasume nisa. So he says in the menorah, the menorah is lit in the synagogue in order to herald the miracle publicly, and the brachas are said over them. The menorah is placed near the southern. Okay, so now they're going into this detail about if it's in the synagogue. I don't know if we need to go over that. I'll let someone come out. All right, hold on 1 second. I just want to see which ones of these are more relevant. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'll bring it back up. So anyway, so that last one was just talking about the synagogue, which isn't such an issue because we don't have a synagogue. I mean, like, we're not the rabbi of a synagogue. Okay, so he says like this: Nasim Chayevot Benir Hanukkah. So he says women are obligated to kindle the Hanukkah lights because they were involved in the miracle of Hanukkah. See on paragraph 3, he says a woman may light a menorah on behalf of her entire family. Woo! A child who has reached the age to be trained for mitzvot may also light the menorah. If a blind person can become someone's partner in contributing towards buying the Hanukkah lights, fulfilling the obligation through his partner's lighting, that would be best. If he has a wife, she should light the menorah for him. But if he has no wife and lives by himself, so he cannot become anyone's partner, he should light it with someone's assistance. That's a blind person. Okay, so this is important right here. Everything's important. So this is Be'arav, Shabbat. So on Erev Shabbat. So now Shabbat's going to be coming in a couple of days. How do we deal with all this lighting of candles? So before Shabbat, you should first kindle the light of the Hanukkah. You should first do the Hanukkah lights first, then the Shabbat candles. Okay, but it should be before plug mincha. So you should do it before the time. You could before you should do it before lighting them. You should pray mincha, and then you should put on. So like around the same, a little bit before you light your Hanukkah candles. You must put enough oil to keep them burning 1.5 hours. After the stars go down, likewise, the brachot you should say over there will be in vain. Ah, interesting. If you light the menorah near the door, you must carefully place something between it and the door so that the wind will not blow it out when the doors open and close. Be Motzai Shabbat, Be Motzi Shabbos. So after Shabbat, how do we deal with this? On Shabbat night, we recite Havdalah, and then we do the Hanukkah lights. In the shul, the lights are kindled before. All right. So at home we do at home we do Havdalah first, and then we do that. Why? Because Shabbos takes precedence, right? Okay. Min shehu neod be to. So he says, if you are away from home and out of town, this is not so applicable right now. If you're away out of town and you know that your wife lights the menorah at home, you should light it wherever you are without saying the bracha. If possible, it should be best to hear the brachot from someone who is lighting the menorah there, and have in mind one fulfill the obligation of his brachot with the amen. But if your wife does not light the menorah at home, similarly, the yeshiva, boarding school, whatever, they're going into these details. It's not so applicable, right? But the point is just saying they're talking about if you're traveling, what do you do? If your wife's there and she doesn't do it, what should you do? This type of a thing. Yeah, go
Rabbi,
ahead.
one question. So, because of that, if you're traveling, should a man like have a separate
Yeah,
Hanukkah that he brings with him?
yeah, exactly. But he just doesn't. So he says like this. Read it over again. So hold on. Okay, if you're away from home out of town, and you do not know that your wife lights the menorah at home, you should light it wherever you are, without saying a blessing. If possible, it is better to hear the bracha from someone else who is lighting the menorah there. So, like, you can bring your own, but they're saying it's even better because if you do it on your own, you can't say the bracha, right? You only can do the bracha at your house, which is very important. But if you go to somebody else's house, you can answer amen to their bracha. So that's what they're saying over here. Okay, so okay, without saying bracha. Okay, but if your wife does not light the menorah at home, similarly, yeshiva students boarding with a family must light the menorah and say the bracha or something else. So if you have a wife that you know is going to say the bracha in the house with the lighting while you're traveling, you're fine. I mean, you don't have to say the bracha. But if your wife is not like that or she can't do it for whatever reason, then you would say it when you're traveling with a bracha. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So he says, okay. He says, if you're boarding with a family, one must light the menorah and say the bracha, or else they should become partners with the head of the house by giving somebody. So if you give money towards the Hanukkah and the oil, it says, and you will also, they will also own a share of the oil and the wick. And the head of the household should add a bit more oil than is required for the partners or partners. They should, however, make an effort to light their own menorah. If you are in town but in someone else's house, then it is time to light the menorah. You must return home and light it. So if you have someone staying at your house and they participate in the lighting, I mean, they say, "Hey, I'm staying out, but can I put some money towards the candles and the oil?" And you say, "Yeah, yeah, you can do that." So he said, when they're at your house, you pour a little extra oil per thing, kind of like shows is by them. He says, "Hashem ha ni sa'ar bam." He says, "Bam nora le'acher." He says the oil that is left in the menorah after Hanukkah is as well as the wick should be burnt in a bonfire because they are set aside for the mitzvah. It is forbidden to derive any benefit from them unless you have made provisions beforehand that you will not set aside what will be left after Hanukkah. So you have to have intentions, right? So if you're not going to set it on fire, like burn it in that way, you have to like separate it and put it like in a like treat it like you would the bread for Shabbat, right? The bread for Shabbat, the Torah tells us, the sages teach, we don't throw the bread away like anything else. We put the bread in a separate bag, right? A bag, and we wrap it in the bag, and then we put it in the trash. So the bread itself is still separate from the rest of the trash because the bread is holy. We're using it for a mitzvah. So when you're going to throw away your stuff, you should separate it as well, even though it doesn't specifically say that. But it's still saying that if you're not going to, they're saying you should set it on fire, right? So if you're in a community that does that, it's easier. But if you're not in the community, you could do it yourself, right? Just put a little fire in the back and throw your stuff in there. But you're showing that you only used it just for that, nothing else. That's the idea. That I use it only for this purpose. It says, Kol Shemota, Yamim Hanacha Omrim Bir Moneh, Asre Allah Nisim Ve'im Shechach Velo Amru. So he says, and during the 8th day of Hanukkah, we say the Shemot Ezra, the Allah Nasim. So when you say the Amida, which is the prayer we say every day, 3 times a day, that prayer during this time, there's extra brachot in it. It's a prayer. You'll see it if you look through it. It says Hanukkah. You also have one for Purim too and other things. But that he said, if you forget to say it and you become aware of it before you say the name of God in the bracha, Hatov Simcha, you should the benefit of your name. You should turn back and start. So if you pass by, you forget. So right now, I'm gonna go and pray, right? So because we're saying this, I'm gonna really remind myself to make sure that I add this part into the prayer. Okay, and you should concentrate. Okay, the bracha, blah blah blah. Okay, and he says during the 8 days we also say Hillel. So Hillel is also halal. It sounds like halal, like the but it's a prayer that we say during like holidays, whatever. But we say it during these days, of that. It's also in the Siddur. We say that extra. And it says, Korim bekol yom talata gevere bi karabanot carbonot. So he says, each day at Hanukkah, we call up 3 men to recite the Torah from each chapter, offering the offerings of the prince of the portion of Naso. So if you're going to read the Torah at home, you can read the Torah portions, the weekly Torah portion for Naso. But they have in your Siddur, they have the Hanukkah reading. Okay, so they have that there. On the first day, we begin with the read of the Kohen, we read for the Kohanim from Vayika. Okay, so he's going into what we actually read on these days, which we don't need to go into so much. On Shabbat, we read. They bring out 2 sefer Torahs, a very big Shabbat. Okay, but they're going through what we read and what this whole thing, right? It says a brush Kodesh recurs, controls. Okay, so they're going into different scenarios. Okay, so what I want to do is tomorrow, if you guys are around, I want to have another class and probably have the couple that was with us last time and just talk a little bit about just the idea of just the spirit of Hanukkah. It's up to you guys if you guys want to do it, but just to kind of like talk about the spirit of Hanukkah. Let me confirm it before I say let's do it, because I'm gonna see if he could do it. But I want to do stuff all throughout this week, right? So everything the same, just like we did last week's class. On that Friday it was like extra, but this week I want to do extra stuff, and so I'll send you some times later on when everything's settled, and after I talk to, I have a few other people. I don't do YouTubes with them, but they want to maybe join too. But the point is just saying that we're going to do stuff throughout this week, and just to keep the spirit up and to talk and reflect and ideas, because a lot of ideas should come to us. We should maybe even have some really crazy dreams too, during this time. So be very open to the dreams is a very high level in terms of that. Yosef had dreams, Pharaoh had dreams. All this in the Torah portions is teaching us about what's going on in the cosmos. So it's a very connected time. But I think you guys are good to go. Any questions on halakha or anything?
No. Torah, do you have any questions? No?
Everything was good.
Torah.
Really good. I did want to share that.
So you ready to go and battle the Satan? You got your war armaments ready to go. And you're ready to go. Okay, and so we're going to do something tomorrow. What it is exactly, we'll figure it out. But we're going to do something tomorrow, and God willing, each of the days of Hanukkah. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me read one song.
No, I just want to share with you, Rabbi.
Please.
As you were talking about the position of the Hanukkah, I read this and I thought it was so beautiful in. Am I saying it correct? Mishlei Proverbs, chapter 3 and verse 16. It was really beautiful. It talked about where the mezuzah is placed on the door, and then where the menorah is placed. It's like you reach your right hand. Is it the right hand?
Yeah, your right hand towards the mezuzah.
The right hand towards the mezuzah, and the left hand towards the Hanukkah. And so, what it says is, let's see if I can see it. Not the best lighting, but it says, "Why are the Hanukkah lights placed on the left side of the door?" The verse in Proverbs 3 and 16 states, "Long life is on its right, on the left are wealth and honor."
Wow.
So
you connect to all that when you're coming into your door on Hanukkah. It's interesting too, and that's kind of like that's the idea around Yosef, right? During his time in Meketz, it's like he went through that, and it was a huge miracle, right? That he went from a slave, right, to the viceroy, the most powerful person in the world. So it's in our DNA, right? So anyway, so let's build tomorrow. Chag Sameach. You guys should be blessed. The kids should be blessed. It should just be good fun time, enjoyment, miracles. Daino, if I only had this, it would have been enough, but he gave me more, right? Anyway, so Baruch atah Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen. So I'll send you the message for tomorrow.